Hello students, now we are going to start the sixth lecture of our chapter, that is natural resource. Now in this lecture we are going to talk about water. Now water, we all know that it is a renewable resource. Water is a renewable resource and it is important for the sustainable of our life, and it is which is important for the sustenance of our life, for sustenance of life. Now, the next point that we are going to cover is that it covers 3 by 4 of the Earth's surface. Water, it covers 3 by 4. It covers 3 by 4 part of the Earth's surface. Of the Earth's surface. It covers 3 by 4 part of the Earth's surface. Now, the second point is that of the total water present, of the total water present in hydrosphere, present in hydrosphere, the atmosphere is called as the where the air is present, and hydrosphere is where water is present. The total water present in hydrosphere, 97%, 97% is present in oceans. 97% of the water is present in oceans, and the water present in oceans, this cannot be utilized by living beings, which cannot be utilized by living beings, by living beings. Now, the next point is that only 3% is fresh water. In our hydrosphere, the total water is present in hydrosphere, 97% is in oceans, and only 3% is fresh water. Only 3% is fresh water. And among this 3%, among this 3%, 0.2 is in ice caves, 0.2% is in ice caves, 0.68% is groundwater, 0.68% is groundwater, and 0.009% is fresh water. 0.009% is fresh water. So this is the division of water. I hope you understand all of this. And now the next topic that we are going to look at is types of water resources. Now, what are the types of water resources? The types of water resources are, the very first is fresh water. The very first is fresh water resource. And in this, it consists of ponds, it consists of ponds, lakes, large rivers, and it can be recycled. The fresh water, it can be recycled also. It can be recycled. It is essential for life on earth as well as for survival, and fresh water is very essential for life and survival. It is very essential for life and survival. It is very essential for life and survival, and it can be obtained from three natural resources. And it can be obtained from three natural resources. The very first is rainwater. And in rainwater, India receives 3 trillion meter square of water. Only in India, it receives 3 trillion meter cube of water. It receives 3 trillion meter cube of water from rainfall and precipitation. From rainfall and precipitation. And its intensity is different in different zones. For example, the wet zone has very high level of rainfall. So there are different zones on the rainwater also. So there are wet zone which has very heavy rainfall, and then there are arid zone. There are wet zone and arid zone, and arid zone have a very low rainfall. So the rainfall is also different in different regions. Now, the next source from which we receive fresh water is surface water. Surface water. Now, the next point from which we receive surface water is there are major river systems, and the next from which we receive surface water is also called as groundwater. Now, what is groundwater? It is the water which percolates into the ground. The water which percolates into the ground. It is the water which percolates in ground, and there is a certain level below the soil surface. There is a certain level below the soil surface. Below the soil surface, there is a certain level below the soil surface where the rocks are saturated with water. Where the rocks are saturated there is a certain level below the soil surface where the rocks are saturated with water, And this zone is also called as zone of saturation. And this zone is called as zone of saturation. And this level or this zone is called as zone of saturation. It is also called as zone of saturation, where the rocks are saturated with water. Where the rocks are saturated with water, that means there are equal level of rocks and water. Now, the upper level of the zone of saturation, the upper level of zone of saturation, the upper level of zone of saturation is called as water table. Is called as is called the water table. Water table. Also, however, the vertical distance the vertical distance from the surface of a region to the water table, from the surface of region from the surface of region to water table is called as water level. To water table is called as water level. The vertical distance is called as water level. Now, the next topic that we are going to study about is role of water or hydrosphere. In previous lecture, we have studied about the role of air or atmosphere. Now we are going to study about the role of water or hydrosphere. Now, in this, water is the very first role is that water is the main constituent of protoplasm. Water is the main constituent Water is the main constituent of protoplasm. Also, the second point is that water is a universal solvent. It can dissolve in anything. That's why water it is a universal solvent. Water is a universal solvent through which mineral salts are transported from one part of the plant to the other. And through water only, the minerals are transported to are transported to one part of the plant one part of the plant to the other one part of the plant to the other through water only. Now the next point is that various metabolic reactions take place in the medium water. Various metabolic reactions various metabolic reactions take place in the medium take place in the medium containing water. Containing water. Various metabolic reactions take place in the medium that contains water. Now the next is that it acts as a reactant. Water acts as a reactant to numerous metabolic reactions. To numerous metabolic reactions. Now, the fifth point is that during photosynthesis, water releases oxygen. During photosynthesis, during photosynthesis, water releases oxygen. Water releases oxygen. Now, we are going to look at some other points about water, that is turgidity of the growing cell, turgidity of growing cell is maintained with water only. When a cell is growing, its turgidity is maintained with water. Is maintained with water. And the growth of cells during elongation phase the growth of cells during elongation phase the growth of cells during elongation phase mainly depends upon how much water it can absorb. So mainly depends upon it mainly depends upon the absorption of water, upon the absorption of water. The next point is that metabolic end product of respiration, the metabolic end product of respiration is water. The metabolic end product of respiration is water. And then the next point is that it acts as a temperature buffer. It acts as a temperature buffer. Now, what do we mean by temperature buffer here is that it acts as a temperature buffer. That means uh, as its specific heat is highest, because its specific heat is highest, as its specific heat is highest. So it can act as a temperature buffer because now it shows the properties of cohesion and adhesion also, because it shows the property of cohesion and adhesion which account for the capillary action of water. So it shows the properties. It can expand and concentrate also. So it shows the properties of cohesion and adhesion. It shows the properties of cohesion and adhesion. Now the next topic that we are going to discuss about is water pollution. Now what is water pollution? We know we have studied about the air pollution. Now the water pollution is caused by the addition of organic or inorganic substances. The water pollution it is the addition of organic and inorganic chemicals. It is the addition of organic or inorganic chemicals. It is the addition of organic or inorganic chemicals as well as some biological materials as well as the biological materials as well as the biological materials which can change the physical and chemical properties of water, which can change the physical and chemical properties of water and chemical properties which can change the physical and chemical properties of water. Now, this harmful process is called as water pollution. Water pollution is caused by many sources. Water pollution is caused by many sources as water pollution is caused by many sources such as sewage matter, sewage matter, agricultural waste, any waste from agricultural or any insecticides and pesticides if go with water then it causes water pollution. So agricultural waste, domestic waste, industrial waste. So these are the types of waste that can cause the water pollution. Industrial wastage, the next are hot water of thermal plants, hot water of thermal plants and nuclear reactors and nuclear reactors, etc. Now these are the types of wastes that causes water pollution. Now we are going to discuss them. Now the very first one is household detergents, and we can call it as domestic waste. So household detergents include the compounds of phosphate, includes the compounds of phosphate. It includes the compounds of phosphate, nitrate, ammonium, and alkyl benzene sulfonate. And alkyl benzene sulfonate. These are the compounds that are present in household detergents, and when they are mixed with water, so how harmful substances which are and these are gathered in water. These are the harmful substances. These are the harmful substances that are gathered in water, that are gathered in water, that are gathered in water, and this harmful and the alkyl benzene sulfonate is a non-degradable. The alkyl benzene sulfonate, we also call it as ABS, the alkyl benzene also we can say that benzene, it's a just sort of pronunciation, and sulfonate. We can also call it as ADS. It is a non-degradable waste material and it is not degraded. So it is a non-degradable. It is non-degradable, and therefore concentration increases, and if its concentration increases, then it is harmful for aquatic life. So that its concentration increases. So if its concentration increases, if its concentration increases, it is harmful for aquatic life. It is harmful for aquatic life. Now, the next part, now the next topic that we are going to study about is sewage. Now, how sewage causes water pollution? Sewage contains the highest amount of organic materials and biological materials. Sewage contains the highest amount it contains the highest amount of organic materials and biological materials. Organic and biological materials and biological materials. These contain the highest amount of organic and biological materials, because the higher these organic materials, the acceleration here, if there is the acceleration of microbial activity, the acceleration of microbial activities the acceleration of microbial activity increases if the acceleration of microbial activity increases the BOD of water. It increases the BOD of water. That means BOD is very less in pure water. In pure water, BOD is very less. So in the dirty water, there is a lot of BOD. So BOD is very less in pure water. Now, these organic materials increase the number of decomposers. These organic materials these organic materials increase the number of decomposers. Increase the number of decomposers. These organic materials increase the number of decomposers like bacteria and fungus. Now with this, we are going to discuss some other properties also, some other sewage also. Now the higher BOD, the higher the BOD, the higher BOD, that is biological oxygen demand, the higher the BOD, that is the biological oxygen demand, it is the indication of water pollution. It is the indication of water pollution. It is the indication of water pollution. And the water of polluted reservoir is cannot be utilized. And the water of polluted reservoir and the water of polluted reservoir cannot be utilized. The water of the polluted reservoir cannot be utilized. And in this, the infection of or disease also takes place. The infection or disease also takes place. Also takes place. And Daphnia and some fishes are sensitive to pollution. And Daphnia is a fish and is sensitive to water pollution. Is sensitive to water pollution. Now, the next topic that we are going to study about is what are the control measures. Now, the control measures for this we can use is to control the water pollution of sewage, then the big particles, the big particles are mainly separated in primary treatment. We can separate the big particles separated in primary treatments. There are the treatment of sewage water and the big particles are mainly separated in primary treatments through flotation and sedimentation. Through flotation and sedimentation. And sedimentation. Whereas microorganisms microorganisms are used for secondary treatment. Microorganisms are used for secondary treatment such as oxidation chamber, such as oxidation chamber. There are oxidation chambers for the separation of microorganisms or activated sludge process. The sludge is removed from the activated sludge process. Now, the next topic that we are going to study about is industrial waste. Now, what is industrial waste? The waste created from the industries is called as industrial waste, or the waste is discharged in the running water. The waste of industries the waste of industries are discharged into the running water, rivers and canals. Are discharged into the running water, are discharged into the running water, rivers and canals, rivers and canals. And industrial waste mainly contains inert suspended particles. And industrial waste mainly contains inert suspended particles, inert suspended particles. They mainly contain inert suspended particles such as dust, coal, such as dust, coal, and toxins. And toxins. Now, what happens here is they also contain inorganic materials like ferrous salts, also contain inorganic materials. They also contain inorganic materials like ferrous salts, and the water polluted by mercury, lead, the water polluted by mercury, the water polluted by mercury, lead, etc. causes disorganization of nervous system, causes disorganization of nervous system. It causes disorganization of nervous system because water, if water is polluted and we drink that water, it is also infectious and it is also not healthy for our nervous systems or for our nervous systems. And it means it produces insanity. It means it produces, it means it produces insanity. The Minamata disease caused in Japan, the Minamata disease caused in Japan, the Minamata disease caused in Japan is due to the the Minamata disease caused in Japan is by eating of mercury polluted fishes. By eating of mercury polluted fishes. By eating of mercury polluted fishes. Now, the next topic that we are going to look at is bioaccumulation of pesticides. Now, pesticides like DDT, pesticides like DDT are poisonous chemicals. These are the poisonous chemicals sprayed on crops to protect themselves from pests. These are the poisonous chemicals sprayed on crops to protect themselves from pests. Now, what happens is the increase in the concentration of harmful non-biodegradable chemicals in the body of living organism. When there is an increase in the concentration, the increase in the concentration of non-biodegradable chemicals, non-biodegradable chemicals in the in the body of living organisms at tropic level, in the body at tropic level, at tropic level is called as biological magnification. Is called as biological magnification. It is called as biological magnification. And now the next topic that we are going to study about is eutrophication. Now, what is eutrophication? The eutrophication is the excessive growth of phytoplanktons, the excessive growth of phytoplanktons brings about a reduction in dissolved oxygen, brings about a reduction in dissolved oxygen, a reduction in dissolved oxygen. This brings out a reduction in dissolved oxygen which affects other aquatic organisms, which affects other aquatic organisms, other aquatic organisms, and this process is also called as eutrophication, and this consequently potential sources of food are highly reduced. Now, with this, we are going to end the lecture here only, and thank you everyone.